Hong Kong Direct is your weekly wrap-up with news, views and previews for the week ahead. Coming up on the show today, we hear from David Hayes. He met the press on Tuesday morning. The two-time Premiership trainer here in Hong Kong returns next season. Also returning is Bow Tie Day in October. Zach Burton, a few of the team were out as well to show their ways. Very warm welcome back to the show. I'm pleased to say I'm joined in the studio as well by Alan Aiken this week. Alan, with nearly 20 years experience in the media here in Hong Kong. You've seen them come, you've seen them go. This is the first time you've seen someone go, as far as trains are concerned anyway, and come back again.
Yeah, I've seen a few go, but not come back. But, you know, when David Hayes left in 2005, he was in Terminator mode even then. He said, I'll be back. And I think it's something he's had in his mind the whole time. He wanted to get Euroa up and running properly. That's now happened. He wanted his son Ben to be old enough to take the reins to some extent, and that has now happened. So the time was right.
He's a big name in Australia, one of the biggest racing families and dynasties in Australia, and on the world stage as well. And when he arrived here first time round, he made a pretty quick impression and remained at the top of the tree right the way through his campaign. Yeah,
and I would expect something similar to happen this time around. David Hayes is a guy who trains winners wherever he goes. When he's had a slow period in Australia, it's only been because he was establishing the new training centre. I think when he comes here, where he knows his way around the place, he knows his way around the handicapping system and the tracks here, it won't be unfamiliar, and I'm sure he'll go straight to the top 4 or 5 trainers.
All right, well, it's still a year to wait as far as that is concerned, but he was here on Tuesday to meet the press, and then afterwards caught up with Ed Sadler.
Well, David Hayes, welcome back to Hong Kong. What brings you back here? Is there some unfinished business that lures you back to this part of the world?
Oh, look, it's a booming racing economy. I've been admiring it since I left for years, and I had to leave prematurely through family, with my father dying and my brother tragically in a plane crash. So I just had to go home, and when I left I said I will be back, and the opportunity came along, and I've grabbed it with both hands.
And for you as well, you're one of the most successful trainers in Australian racing history. Proud time of things here with 2 championships. You've travelled all around the world. As a trainer, what makes Hong Kong such a good place to be a trainer?
Everything's supplied for you. The staff are world class. The stake money in Hong Kong's the envy of every jurisdiction in the world. The tax rate that the government have are wonderful. And I just think it's a world class facility. You know, you can live on the race course. I think that's a bit special.
The 14 years that you've been back in Australia, you've won a couple of Caulfield Cups, Cox Plate, Golden Slipper, many other big races. When you close the door on the Australian chapter in your career, are you satisfied with how that's finished?
Oh, look, I've been lucky enough to achieve most of my goals in Australia, and the ones I haven't, I'll get more pleasure watching my sons do it. So I'm turning my back on Australia, but not really, because I'll be watching it from afar, and I still will own a very big business down there.
We're talking to you about this big announcement in September 2019. September 2020 is when you'll actually start having runners. The next 12 months, how does that all work for you?
It'll be working very hard in Australia, and, you know, obviously with a focus on building my team in Hong Kong, meeting people, catching up with old acquaintances and getting some new ones, and then obviously making a plan so we can hit the ground running this time next year.
An announcement like today as well too, to see all the old faces from the media, some new ones, and just how well respected you are. Does it feel like you're coming back home?
It really does. I've always called Hong Kong for home for me, and you know, once I finish this stint I've probably trained more in Hong Kong than Australia, so I'm just very lucky to be given this opportunity again to come back. I don't think anyone's ever left and come back, so I feel very privileged.
He seems very excited about it. Alan, take us back to those early days, though, when he first arrived. How quickly did he make an impression?
Well, I think Hayes made an impression right away, as an individual particularly. I mean, he's a very charismatic guy, for a horse trainer especially. And I think it was only a year or two in that he won his first championship. And he won the championship twice, but he was always a big player in the big races. And I think that's one of the roles that the Jockey Club really was keen to see filled if John Moore was going to be finishing up. They needed a marquee name, a marquee player at that top end. And David Hayes, he's been happy to travel horses around the world, winning big races and running well in the best races. And I think that was part of the ingredients that made this a really, in snooker terms, a white ball on the cushion, a real safety play from the Jockey Club.
Yeah, as a slight aside, I was actually working at Lindsay Park when David left to come here to Hong Kong. And Lindsay Park, the original one in South Australia and Euroa now, very different setups to what he's going to have here. But he's obviously been very successful in the past, so there's no problem on that front. No,
and I think that's another thing to it, that he has shown that he can play the game in the conditions that he'll meet here. And so there's no risk that you might have with another trainer coming from a Euroa style of property who might come here and be totally disoriented training on a flat circle track. And the other thing is that I'm sure Hazy will cope very quickly with a Chung Fa arrangement. He's been training out of 2 or 3 different places at once for most of his training life.
Yeah, he's already talked about Chung Fa and being excited about that as well. And a lot of the people he would have trained for, some of those connections will still be here with having horses. I'm sure he's been on the phone. There might be some emails sent already.
Oh, I'm sure he's been on the phone. But look, Hazy had most of the big clients in Hong Kong. At the time that he left, the main players in the big races were himself, Ivan Allen, Brian Can, names like that. And a lot of those owners still have horses now and have had horses with John Moore after David Hayes left. So it's a natural thing to think that they will gravitate back to him.
You mentioned some of the trainers' names there. The landscape, as far as that's concerned, though, has changed somewhat, and we have the dominance of John Size at the moment.
Yes, well, John was here when David left. In fact, he'd already won 3 championships by the time David Hayes left. And David Hayes famously said John Size is the only trainer he'd ever seen that he'd like to give his horses to. But I'm sure that there'll be room for David Hayes along with John Size. Of course, guys like Frankie Law, they weren't anywhere near getting licences when David Hayes left. But the landscape has changed, but that's an ever-changing thing everywhere you go in the racing world. The top trainers come and go a little bit, and I'm sure he'll fit in.
All right, that's David Hayes, and we'll come back as well later on in the show and relive Elegant Fashions, a fantastic win in the 2003 Hong Kong Derby too. Now, last week also, Zach Purton, Frankie Law, you can see Vincent Ho are out promoting Bow Tie Day, which will come up at the end of October. It's on Oriental Watch Sha Tin Trophy Day, and they're all dressed up to the nines as well, and we had our team there as well to catch up with Zach, all dressed up to the nines.
But we've had a great day walking around the city. It was good to see everyone come out. It created a lot of atmosphere and a lot of attention there. There were plenty of people on the street stopping to have a good look at what we were doing, and that's nice. It creates a bit of buzz and a bit of momentum going forward into the race meeting, and let's just hope it can be a good day like it was last year.
And part of being the face of this promotion is that your profile, your elegance, is all over buses and posters all over town. That must be an interesting experience, just to walk around and see yourself in 20-foot high posters.
Yeah, it is. I get pulled up enough as it is on the streets, let alone looking at myself on a billboard or on a bus or on a tram. But it is nice when you see that go past. It's a little bit of recognition of the success I've had, and long may it continue.
Well, it's watches or suits. Jockeys are a competitive breed. Besides your good self, who's bringing their A game in the weighing room in the fashion stakes these days?
I would say Alberto Senna leads the way there. He's from Italy, and nothing is ever out of place with him. It's all tailored exceptionally well. He changes outfits. He loves wearing pocket squares and things like that. He really takes it to another level.
Graham Cunningham there as well. Bow Tie Day is the 20th, Alan. It's quite fortuitous you've got you, because if anyone knows about bow ties, Yeah, the Jockey Club, it's you.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I'm really disappointed they haven't taught those jockeys how to tie their own bow ties. Every one of those bow ties was a clip-on. I always tie my own, and I reckon it should be a condition of their licence.
It's a good day as well. Zach's saying, hope it's a good day for him it was last year, because that was Beauty Generation winning on that day. He should be second up in theory heading into that race.
I would imagine he's following the same path he has for the last 2 years, and that probably means Zach's going to ride the main winner that day.
There you go. He'll trial on the 24th as well. All right, still plenty more to come on the show. After the break, we'll be heading to the trials as the champion sprinter Beat the Clock starts to warm up for his return. We'll hear from Joe Moreira as well. There's 2 cup races on Sunday. We'll be looking at the second last race, race number 9, California Whip. Raging Storm with Joe Moreira in the saddle. John Size, the trainer, and Racing Fighter, all locking horns once more in the second last on the card.